Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Insight into the Urinary System, Functions and Protocols. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. You've joined the presentation listening using your computer's speaker system by default. If you would prefer to join over the telephone, just select phone call in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenter by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Today's webinar is being recorded and you will receive a follow-up email within 24 to 48 hours with a link to view the recording. I would now like to introduce Colleen Bingham. Colleen?
Thank you, Wendy, and thank you all. Hello, everyone. Good to see you. Welcome to our second live webinar in a series of educational webinars we are hosting monthly to introduce you to the body systems, how they function, and how to support them with Dr. Morse's amazing formulas and protocols. Thank you again for giving us your time today. I know life is so busy and we really appreciate you taking a moment to sit with us and discuss these amazing plants and some really important strategies for keeping yourself healthy and balanced and feeling good during these crazy times. So last month we covered the lymphatic system. And if you did miss that, you can still find that video and blog by searching lymphatic system function at Dr. Morse, herbalhealthclub.com. And next month, we will be discussing the cardiovascular system. So if you enjoy what you see here today, be sure to keep an eye out for next month's registration link. So yes, as Wendy said, my name is Colleen Bingham, and I will be your guide today. I feel very privileged to be here to speak on behalf of Dr. Morse and present this information to you. I am a certified herbalist, and I've been walking the plant path as a passion and a career for the past 13 years. I am senior copywriter and herbal educator here at Dr. Morse and alumni of the Dr. Morse International School of Healing Arts. I'm also an educator for live classes at an institute for herbology in Sonoma County, California, where I live, and I'm a natural product formulator. And I am so blessed to be here today with Jen B and Sarah, these queens who some of you probably know very well. They have been your support team here at Dr. Morse for over 10 years. They know Dr. Morse's formulas, protocols. They are alumni of his school. Jen B is brand manager. Sarah is customer support supervisor. They are both amazing. And they will be fielding your questions throughout the presentation. We'll get more into that later. So what brought us all here today? We are here, we have alumni of the school, we have our retail partners, and we have customers, people who have maybe been dedicated to the brand for years and part of the Dr. Morse community. Maybe you also just are joining us and this is your first time ever hearing anything about Dr. Morse, and we are just so thrilled to have everyone in one place because Dr. Morse's methodology and philosophy in life is all about healing the masses, right? Bringing this detoxification and health and wellness to the world. So it really means a lot that we're all sitting together in one space to learn together and hopefully grow. Take some nuggets. So yes, why are we here? We're here because of this guy, Dr. Robert Morse. He is quite the force. His life's work is to unlock the body's natural ability to heal by supporting its regenerative detoxification processes. And for over 45 years, Dr. Morse has been educating humanity on how to remove obstructions in the body, both the physical, energetic channels that connect the body, mind, and spirit through proper diet and the support of his transformative herbal supplement formulas. So Dr. Morse also has an amazing YouTube channel at Robert Morse ND. If you're interested in doing the deep dive, like I said, if you're new to the community and you want to just go all in and learn everything you can, that's a great place to start. He's also taught thousands of healers through his many online courses at the International School of Healing Arts. It's just some amazing work this guy has done to bring his vision to the world. And he really believes that healing it starts within the body. It starts with, potentially our lifestyle, diet, and philosophies that can be potentially toxic to our health and well-being. both on a spiritual and physical level, right? So how can we assess where we're at, and how can we work to make our body more clear, more in alignment, working for us so that we can take our mind and consciousness to the next level? And a quote that Dr. Morse always says is, become the master of your own journey. Detoxification can wake up the God consciousness, whatever that means for you. So thank you to Dr. Morse for your teachings, and thank you to all of you who have joined us and are on this path with us. We are so grateful to have you here. So just a few things to cover. We already discussed this. Wendy, thank you for the intro. We will be having the question and answer feature going throughout the presentation. I will not be looking at the questions myself, but Jen and Sarah are going to be answering as many questions as they can. Granted, we won't be able to probably answer all of your questions, but we will do our best. And then they will be culling some questions that are directly asked to me, and we will spend the last 10 minutes of the presentation answering those questions for you. And so again, we have a full house. We'll do our best to answer everyone's questions, but we also have a survey that we'll be sending you at the very end of the webinar. So if you didn't get your question answered, there will be a place in that survey to ask your question, and we can respond later. So yeah, stick around, fill out that survey. It means a lot because it's your chance to voice your opinions about what you saw today, and ask for what it is you want to learn. And also, we want to know if this is a good time for you all. Also, we will be recording, and we will be sending that recording out in the next 24 hours. But other exciting thing about sticking around is that we will be giving you discount codes at the very end of the presentation if you stay till the end, and they are for everyone, whether you are purchasing as an alumni, as a wholesaler, or as a customer on the website. You will be getting a sweet discount that lasts for the next 24 hours, so definitely stay till the end if you can. All right, let's talk about today's agenda. We are going to quickly cover some urinary system anatomy and physiology. This is the heady stuff, just how does the system work? And then Dr. Morse protocols come in. So we're going to say, okay, the system needs some support. How are we going to use the herbs and the formulas and other means to get our systems back online? And my favorite part is the urinary system herb walk with some virtual herbs that we're going to meet. And then we'll have some time for additional therapeutics before we go to our question and answer period. So without further ado, let's do this. So before we dive into anatomy and physiology, I just want to take a moment to honor why we're here. We are here because of the plants. We are here because of tradition. And so both Dr. Morse and myself pull from many different traditions. Dr. Morse is a naturopathic doctor. He's definitely researched a lot with eclectic herbalists, and he also takes from some traditional Chinese medicine and, of course, indigenous peoples' medicine from North America. And I too, as an herbalist, approach it just all modalities I think are really relevant, right? We all are on this earth, and no matter what your lineage or your heritage, your people at some point used herbs to support their health and wellness. So really this information is our birthright, and hopefully you'll walk away from here feeling more empowered about how to take your healing into your own hands and use these amazing plants to help guide that healing. And herbalism is a seasonal practice, right? So as the seasons shift, we approach each season with a different kind of outlook, okay? So we are actually in a really cool transition right now. We are leaving spring and heading into summer. Summer solstice is June 21st. Believe it or not, I cannot believe it's already summer. But summer is this expansive outward energy time of the year where we're really putting ourselves out there socially, energetically. It can be really draining and taxing, as opposed to winter months where we're really internalized and hibernating, right? So this is the most expansive it gets, really, is summer. And so we decided to present on the kidneys this month and the urinary system, because in traditional Chinese medicine, the kidneys are the house of all of our emotions, right? So all of our emotions are housed in the kidneys. And really they, in traditional Chinese medicine, they call the kidneys the seat or storehouse of emotions. And as the seat of the willpower itself is seen as coming from the kidneys, which also generate ambition and a desire to do something with your life. So those are all really big, expansive concepts, right? We're also tackling hydration or dehydration because we are in these very dry, hot months where we are sweating a lot, we're losing a lot of fluids. We need to also work on bringing more fluids in. How do we best do that to maintain a healthy mineral balance in our blood and healthy homeostasis, right? So before we dive into the heady anatomy and physiology, just really quickly, if you'll indulge me, bring your hands together and start to create some heat. You're going to build your chi in your hands. You want to feel that heat. And then you're going to place your hands on your kidneys. So you're going to find that spot. It's the hollow spot right below your rib cage on either side of your spine. And you're going to place that energy right on those two hollow spots right below your rib cage. And you can close your eyes here and take a few deep breaths. Say thank you to your kidneys for all the hard work they do every moment of every day to process and filter and eliminate waste. Imagine that flowing of energy that comes from drinking water or eating a watermelon and allowing it to enter your blood and the fluid moving from your blood to your kidney processing that fluid and then eventually excreting it as waste and sending it back to the land. We ingest, we filter, and we release. Take another big breath. Nice. Thank you, kidneys. All right, so what are the kidneys? What do they look like? What does the urinary system look like? Here you go, the anatomy and physiology. Put on your thinking caps, everyone. So here we have the main parts of the system. It's actually a pretty simple system as things go. Most of the action happens right here in the two kidneys. We have one on either side of the spine, right at that 12th vertebrae. And right here on top is the adrenal glands. We'll talk about those a little bit more later. They are actually part of the endocrine system, but they definitely play a role in kidney function. So the kidneys are here, and then these little tubes are the ureters. They're just tubes, and they send all the urine down to the bladder right here, and that's a holding tank. And then there's finally the urethra, which is not shown in this diagram. That's actually the prostate there. And the urethra is the tube that sends the urine back out into the world. So yeah, other than the kidneys processing and filtering, everything else is tubes and holding tanks. So like I said, relatively simple system. So what does the urinary system do? It plays a major role in the detoxification, in all body detoxification. It's a primary organ of elimination, and it works in symphony with the heart, the blood, the lymph, and the adrenal glands. It's filtering blood, and as it's filtering that blood, it's eliminating waste products. It's also screening the blood for mineral content, aka electrolytes. And so it's retaining the minerals that our body needs for all the tissues and functions and organs, and it's releasing excess electrolytes as waste. It's regulating fluid and blood pressure. Does this remind you of another system? We just talked lymphatics last month, and yes, the lymphatic system and the kidney system are so entwined because together they are really working on balancing out fluid and blood pressure. They are filtering and releasing excess fluid from the body if it needs to be, or they're retaining it if it needs to stay in the body. Another big one, and this is huge for Dr. Morse because we definitely are working with a lot of folks with acidosis, high levels of acidity because of the foods that we're eating or the toxins in our environments. And so the kidneys, when functioning properly, do help to maintain that acid-base balance, which is a big deal. They also help to stimulate red blood cell production. So that means the kidneys and are supporting the immune system, right? So those red blood cells are immune cells, and the kidneys are helping support the production of those. And interestingly enough, the urinary system and the kidneys specifically are activating vitamin D. And so let's take a closer look at the kidney. This is a cross section of one of your kidneys. They are bean-shaped, they are fist-sized, and they are purplish brown in color. The kidneys sit on either side of the spine at the 12th vertebrae on the posterior body wall right there in the back, as we all touched earlier. They hold about 20% of the body's total blood volume, filtering about 120 to 140 liters of blood every day. And of that blood and fluid, there's about 2 quarts or 2 liters of urine that is produced and removed from the body every day. So it's not just one big filter. There is tons of millions of tiny little filter units that are working to make the kidneys function and help them to filter. So let's take a look. So the cortex is the outer part of the kidney, and then the inner part of the kidney is the medulla. And we're going to be looking specifically at these renal pyramids. That's where all the action happens. So the pyramid itself is where all the filter units are, the nephrons with their glomerular filtration. And then after that, once the waste product is produced, it enters the renal pelvis. So everything basically just goes towards the center and out towards the bladder this way. Okay, so let's take a closer look at one of these renal pyramids. Within that pyramid, there are millions of nephrons. So within each kidney, there are about 1 million nephrons, right? So this one renal pyramid, it's just showing a blown up version of one nephron, but imagine there's hundreds of thousands of them in this one little renal pyramid, okay? But just so you understand what's going on here, the main thing we're going to be looking at are these little balls. These are called glomerular capsules. And so the red oxygenated blood is coming into this glomerular capsule, and that's where all the filtration is happening. Deoxygenated blood leaves, and all the waste ends up in this collecting duct here. And so taking a closer look at this glomerular capsule, it reminds me a lot of the lymphatic system. So glomerulus right here is Latin for ball of yarn, which this is actually a capillary bed. So if you remember from our lymphatics month, the capillaries are the smallest types of vessels in the body, and they are highly permeable, which means they are very porous, and they're allowing for things to exit blood flow and be eliminated from the blood, essentially. So they are permeable just enough to let out fluids containing waste, ions, glucose, amino acids. Those things all pass through the lining of the capsule, but it is not permeable enough to allow for the release of blood cells or proteins. So those things remain in the blood. The oxygenated blood comes in, all of that waste product is filtered out and removed via this tubule, and all of the deoxygenated blood goes back into circulation towards the heart and lungs to be reoxygenated. Okay. All right, so that is basically that is the anatomy of the system. So now we're going to kind of talk physiology, like how do all these parts come together and make for this amazing filtration unit, right? So this is kind of just a recap here. Number one, the blood enters the kidney carrying waste products, electrolytes, and water. The kidneys filter the blood, removing waste products and excess substances while keeping important components like red blood cells. And number three, the kidneys concentrate or dilute urine to maintain water balance in the body. So that's kind of an interesting one. You can actually tell a little bit how hydrated you are based on the quality of your urine. So we're going to dive into urine for a minute here. A general rule of thumb is that the more concentrated, so if you're peeing infrequently, and when you pee it is very concentrated and dark and scant, that means that your body is not releasing a lot of fluid. That means that you're potentially dehydrated and that your kidneys are keeping all of that fluid in the body in circulation, because it, until it gets more fluid through your food or your beverages, it's not going to let any of that water go. But on the other hand, if you have a high volume of urine, if you're going to the bathroom quite a bit, that means that you are plenty hydrated and your kidneys are filtering properly and removing excess fluid from the body. It's always to do this beautiful dance, right? It's the whole point is to maintain fluid and electrolyte homeostasis, which is a fancy word for balance in the body. What happens when we aren't releasing these waters from the body? When they get held in the tissues of the body, then things start to go wrong. Then things start to get backed up and bogged down. And we'll talk about that more in just a minute. Also, I'm not done talking about urine. We're going to talk about cloudy urine in a moment and how beneficial that is. So first off, let's talk about this renal lymphatic connection. So as I'm talking about the pressure of the system, right? How in all of the organs, all of our organs in the body and all of our tissues are surrounded by this interstitial space that's generally filled with fluid. And you don't want too much fluid in that interstitial space because that leads to things like edema, swelling, pain, inflammation, right? You want the kidneys and the lymphatic system functioning properly so that any excess fluid that's building up in those tissue spaces is being mopped up and excreted from the body. Okay, otherwise you end up with high blood pressure and acid kind of acidosis type symptomology. Okay, so this is just basically saying that it wasn't really known until very recently that there was such a thing as a renal lymphatic connection, and really the lymph is flowing through the kidneys, and it's essentially a safety valve where if the kidneys are taxed or burdened or working extra hard and having a hard time filtering out excess fluids, some of that excess fluid can be mopped up by the kidney or by the lymphatic system, excuse me, and move through lymphatic flow, get processed that way, and come back to the kidney to be excreted as waste, okay? So big concepts, but the name of the game is that these two organ systems are pretty critical. They work simultaneously to keep your body drained, okay? And so they need to be supported, whether that's through therapeutics, through diet, through some supplemental herbs. It's great to ensure that these systems are working together and working properly. So here's that cloudy urine piece I wanted to mention. I think I could have switched these slides, but yeah, Dr. Morse, this is actually a PDF that's available on the website. Here's the URL right down here, but it's a two-sided PDF, and it's basically explaining that if you have clear urine, that is an implication that your kidney and lymph might not be working properly, and that if you are to put yourself on a detox protocol and bring in some of these diuretic herbs and these herbs that are helping to support the lymphatic system and the movement and the processing and elimination of these organ systems, you are going to start to see cloudy urine. You're going to see sediment in your urine, and that is an indication that your systems are working properly, that they are filtering all that excess stuff that's stuck in the interstitial fluid in your body. So definitely check out that PDF. And one more slide on detoxification. So it's not just lymphatic and kidney synergy, it's also other organ systems, right? Again, kidneys and bladder or the urinary system is not an isolated system. There are so many factors at play when it comes to the health of your kidneys. So that's why when we recommend some supportive herbal formulas, we always pair things together. We'll get to that in a minute, but let's talk about some of these other systems. So the endocrine system. Obviously, the endocrine system and the urinary system are in cahoots because right here you have your two adrenal glands. Adrenal, that word, ad is for near and renal is for kidney. So near kidney, right on top, these cute little hats. The adrenal glands. And the adrenal glands are, they are part of the endocrine system. They pump out cortisol when we're in fight or flight, and they also, there's an adrenal-kidney connection which involves the production and release of aldosterone from the adrenal glands. And so essentially we need that hormone in the kidneys to help regulate the electrolyte and fluid balance, okay? All right, so the next connection here is the integumentary connection. So that is your skin. It's a very fancy word for skin. But the skin is a very critical organ to kidney health because, as Dr. Morse likes to refer to it, it is the third kidney. Any taxation on the kidneys or any difficulties they're having, you will see that excess waste will show up on the surface of the skin. So urine and sweat, because the sweat glands are in the skin, and in those sweat glands you have a bunch of chemical compounds like urea, which the chemistry is actually very similar to your sweat and urine. They're very similar, right? So these two systems, the skin and the urinary system, are both excreting water-soluble waste from the body, okay? So a taxed kidney can lead to the skin having to work harder to clear toxins. And interestingly enough, this can cause some of those mysterious rashes that you can be scratching your head about. So yeah, definitely you will have some herbs that we're going to talk about that are specific to supporting the skin. And then the liver. The liver breaks down substances both into oil and water-soluble compounds. So these water-soluble compounds are filtered and excreted through the kidneys, and some of those are things like drugs and metabolites and environmental pollutants and chemicals. So all those things can leave the liver and head to the kidneys for elimination. Okay, so let's talk about what that looks like as far as Dr. Morse's herbal supplements. Okay, I'm going to take a pause for a moment, let everyone take a breath. I'm not even looking at the questions, but I am guessing that Sarah and Jen are busy responding to all of your great questions. Great, so this is Herbal Therapeutics and Dr. Morse's formulas. So we have a whole line of kidney bladder formulas, kidney bladders 1 through 4. And those come with the label either cleanser or diuretic, but essentially all 4 of them have similar herbal pairings and are all going to be really supportive to the kidneys and bladder. So whichever one of those you choose, we also recommend, so that's just where we want you to start. We want you to start by using one of our kidneys and bladder formulas to support your urinary tract, okay? But then we also, as it is not a closed system and all these other systems are at play, we always recommend that you pair the kidneys and bladder formula with other formulas as well. So I'm going to dive a little bit into that right now. Okay, and this is based on those previous slides that we just had. So over here, we discussed the connection between the lymphatic system and the kidneys and bladder, the endocrine system, the skin, and the liver. Okay, so that's basically what we're reviewing right now. Okay, so Dr. Morse recommends to pair your kidneys and bladder formula with the lymphatic system formula. So that kind of makes sense, right? We just talked about how both of these systems need to be online and working really well in order for you to be properly processing excess fluid in the body and removing waste. And they really go hand in hand. I can't stress it enough. So essentially, these 2 formulas are going to support those 2 systems. And we'll talk dietary therapeutics in a moment, but the combination of this with some dietary changes could really help you start to see some of that more cloudy urine. And then we also love when you add on the GI Renew formula, because this is supporting the liver and digestive tract. Okay, so there's a GI Renew 0 through 4, and you can kind of choose whichever one makes the most sense for you. There's a lot of great descriptions on our website, but it's all based on how frequently you are having a bowel movement. So GI Renew 1 is essentially for someone who's having 2 to 3 bowel movements a day, and then 2, 3, and 4 is less and less bowel movements per day. Okay, and so we pair that with a liver skin formula. So that's bringing in the endocrine or the integumentary system, the skin, right? So it's got some great herbs that are very supportive to skin health and supportive to that channel, eliminatory channel that ends up as in the sweat glands and being removed via sweat on the skin. And one more for you. You, of course, don't have to get all of these, but just kind of giving you the concept of it doesn't take just one system to make you feel better. All the systems need to be online in order for us to be processing all this waste and removing it from the system. So, adrenal support, right? This is a fun one because, I mean, I'm just all about adaptogen herbs, and there's adaptogen herbs in the adrenal support formula. And we talked about how the kidneys are resting, or sorry, the adrenal glands are resting right on top of the kidneys. And there is this whole aldosterone hormone thing that's happening where they're working in tandem. But also keep in mind that the adrenal glands is where our fight or flight response is really housed. You know, when we have something terrifying happen or even little triggers and you notice that you're having this flush of adrenaline in the body, that's going to affect your kidneys. In fact, as I was preparing for this webinar and starting to feel the adrenaline and the buildup, I had to pee really bad, because once you get into that fight or flight mode, which can be triggered by exciting things, anticipatory things, it makes you need to go to the bathroom. So next time you're in fight or flight, notice if you have to use the restroom. Anyway, all that to say that an adrenal support formula is going to have some adaptogens in it. We'll meet one of them in a little bit here. And those adaptogens are helping your body to respond to stress over time so that you have a healthier response to occasional stressors. So that as the stressor is coming on, you aren't having that like super, cortisol flush, and you're kind of riding the wave, if you will. So yeah, adrenaline support formula is a great one, adrenal support formula. Okay, so that's all the pairings that I would recommend and that Dr. Morse, of course, created to be paired together. And then we are about to do our virtual herb walk. So I just wanted to show you, these are all of the formulas that are going to be discussed in our herb walk, okay? And so this is the list right here. This is the master list of all the herbs that you will be getting a discount on for the next 24 hours. So I'll give you the code at the end of the webinar, and you can go on our site or call in to your support person, and any of these formulas you can purchase with a discount, okay? Because they are all pertinent to supporting healthy urinary system function. So let's go on a little virtual herb walk. Okay, so we're going to start with our primary herbs, which are our diuretics. Okay, diuretics make you pee. You're probably familiar with them. There's a lot of diuretic formulas out there in allopathic medicine. One thing about allopathic medicine is they can really deplete potassium levels, whereas herbal diuretics have a really good mixture of mineral complex, a lot of potassium in some of these herbs, so they don't necessarily deplete the body of potassium. But diuretics essentially clear excess water from the body. So they're going to make you pee. Okay, and that's one great way to stimulate the kidney and to get that eliminatory pathway working. So let's meet these herbs. Okay. So juniper berry is in all 4 of our kidney bladder formulas, right? So obviously Dr. Morse decided this was a pretty critical herb for adding to all formulas for kidney bladder support. So why? It's got a lot going for it. First of all, it's a diuretic, so it's going to make you pee, but it also has a lot of tannin and essential oils. So it's really toning. Tannins mean that it's toning, tightening to tissue. It stimulates tissue and it gets tissue functioning really well. So it can really support the tissue lining of the kidneys and the ureter, the tubes, and the bladder. All of that tissue can get toned by having a little juniper berry in your formula. And it's also really high in essential oil content. They also call that volatile oils. And those volatile oils are really good at balancing out any the microbiome in the kidneys and the bladder, right? So if your microbiome gets out of balance, and I can't say much more than that from a regulatory standpoint, but basically what that means is that this will help to eliminate any unwanted or foreign organisms from the kidney and bladder and keep them in balance and keep them as a healthy microbiome, okay? And let's see, what else do I want to say about juniper? Oh, that the volatile oils can be mildly irritating in juniper. We actually have it in all of our kidney bladder formulas, but Dr. Morse kept it at a very low concentration in the formulas. But there's a demulcent herb in each of these formulas that helps to kind of soothe out that mild irritation from the essential oil. The essential oil is helping to balance that microbiome, and these supportive demulcent herbs, which are kind of slimy and mucilaginous, are also in the formulas to help to balance out the astringency and kind of irritation. So kidney bladder 1 and 2 have marshmallow root in them. Kidney bladder 2 and 4 have chickweed, and kidney bladder 1 and 3 have corn silk. All nice demulcent herbs to support in fact, here's corn silk. So let's talk about corn silk for a moment. So believe it or not, yes, corn. And also, hey, it's summertime, so it's corn season. So any corn that you buy at the store, although we always prefer and recommend organic, is going to have the silk on it. Granted, by the time you get it home and it's already a full head of corn, ear of corn, by then the silk has less of the nutrient complex because it's been put into each of those kernels. So it's actually suggested that the best time to harvest the corn silk is with the young corn before it's turned into an ear of corn. Okay, but you can just harvest the corn silk off of any of your corn and save it for your tea. It makes a really delicious tea, mildly tastes like corn, and it's quite sweet. And it's just really sweet. And it's a great tonic herb for the kidneys and bladder. It's just like a urinary system gem, really. I love that it's in kidney bladder 1, 3, and kidney bladder T, and has some demulcency. So again, that's the like softening tissues, helping to rebuild tissues throughout the urinary tract. It also is rich in flavonoids, which indicates that it's got some oxidative support, and saponins. Saponins are mildly irritating, which can help to stimulate the flow of urine. Okay, nettle, also known as stinging nettle. And if you didn't know this was an herb, that people have used for generations, for millennia. Now you do. You might just know of it as a noxious weed that you get stung by every so often when you're not paying attention. But it does grow by free-flowing water, and that's a really great kind of doctrine of signatures for how it acts in the body. It's an incredible diuretic, and it gets those kidneys working, right? So we're talking about the mineral homeostasis within the kidneys. So what does that mean? As the kidneys are screening your blood, they are looking for a healthy complex of potassium, sodium, chloride, and minerals like that. And those minerals are needing, we need to retain a good complex of those minerals in the blood in order for all of our tissues to get the nutrients that they need, right? So the way all diuretic herbs work is that they have this high or dense mineral complex. So when we drink nettle tea or take nettle tincture, we are stimulating, we're getting basically a flood of those minerals, a great complex, or it's like a balanced plethora of minerals, a cornucopia, if you will, of minerals to the kidneys. And the kidneys are like, whoa, where'd all these minerals come from? Time to process and make sure that we have what we need and we can get rid of the rest. And it just really wakes them up and gets them going. So nettle's great for that. Also, just wanted to point out this cool close-up of the sting of the nettle is it's actually a needle made of silica. So another great indication for nettle is for hair, skin, and nails because it's got high silica content. And parsley. Parsley is in kidney bladder 4, which is arguably one of our stronger of the kidneys and bladder formulas as far as its diuretic nature. This is definitely a strong diuretic. It is going to make you pee. And so it's also in kidney tea in smaller doses. And it's traditionally used to support the flushing of the kidney and helps to keep the kidneys and bladder free flowing. So I can't say much more about that, but it's essentially keeping them clear and removing blockages. And I'll just leave it there. But hopefully you know what I mean. It also is considered calming to spasms of the smooth muscle of the kidney and bladder. So a great ally. And hydrangea is the final diuretic herb that we're going to meet today. This is the root of hydrangea, and it's indigenous to North America. In fact, the Cherokee Nation was using it for generations before European settlers were introduced to it. And so it supported the free flow of urine, again, just like what we just discussed in the last slide. And its diuretic actions is supportive to the system with both acute and chronic discomforts. Now, hydrangea is kind of a great mild diuretic herb that's a good tonic for the kidneys and bladder, and it's in 3 of our 4 kidneys and bladder formulas, 1, 2, and 4. Okay, so now we're going to move to our secondary herbs, and I am going to move a little more quickly so that we can get to our other therapeutics. But these are our tonics and astringents. So this is cordyceps. This is an adaptogen, and it's a mushroom. And originally, this cordyceps mushroom was harvested in Tibet, which is where it's from, and it's actually a parasite. And this caterpillar will breathe in the spore, and this mushroom will take over the caterpillar completely. It will liquidate all of its internal organs and turn it into mycelium. So definitely pretty fascinating stuff there. It's a great supportive adaptogen herb that is in kidney bladders 1 and kidney bladders 3. And now what we do is our medium it's now grown on a vegan medium. So that's where we source ours, just so you know, in case you were curious. But yeah, it's really nourishing, building, it supports kidney strength. It's a great tonic for the kidneys. Burdock, this is specific to the skin, okay? So bear with me for a moment. It is an alterative. We have a whole article that I wrote on alterative herbs on the website. So if you're curious about what an alterative is, definitely check out that article. But alterative herbs are great at supporting, nourishing, and stimulating the flow of all eliminatory channels in the body, okay? Burdock is specific to the liver to skin eliminatory channel. So you will find that if the liver is overburdened, the skin will manifest some sort of irritation or imbalance, and that's an indication of a taxed liver. And so burdock root is specific for supporting the liver to skin pathway. So it's a great skin herb. It also contains inulin, which is a prebiotic for the gut. So it's also good to eat burdock root for that reason. Okay, so why did I choose goldenrod for this presentation? It is a diaphoretic. Have you heard that word before? And you've heard diuretic before. A diaphoretic means it will make you sweat. And we discussed how the skin is an eliminatory pathway. It's very similar. The waste product that comes off on the skin is very similar chemically to the waste that comes out of the bladder. And so goldenrod is going to promote the sweating and the release of that waste from the skin, okay? So it's great to drink as a tea for that reason. It's actually in our kidney tea blend. It's also in kidney bladder 1 and kidney bladder 3. And yeah, it's a really, really lovely tasting herb. And if you've ever come across goldenrod in nature, it's got a very pleasant scent. These stands of goldenrod can get taller than me. I'm 6 feet tall. So yeah, it can grow really high as well. Marshmallow, probably one of my favorite gateway herbs when it comes to herbalism. Very demulcent, which means it swells with water and makes the water more soft and slimy. And that's really great at coating the tissues of the body, okay? So it's great at counterbalancing some of those volatile irritants in the juniper berry, and it's just a great kind of daily formula. It's really good for maintaining hydration within the body. It's in GI Renew 1, kidney tea, kidney bladder 1, and kidney bladder 2. And finally, uva ursi. Also, this is manzanita, same family, and used similarly. So cousin to, oh, sorry, not manzanita, cousin to madrone. I get those two mixed up sometimes. Okay, so this is specific to that microbiome again. It's really good at helping balance out the kidneys and bladder and the urinary system and keeping it clear of any foreign organisms that we don't want to be there. So it's good at kind of clearing out and keeping a healthy microbiome there, and has both astringency and demulcency. So it's a nice kind of modulator for helping strengthen the tissues of the urinary tract. Okay, and so here are our urinary system therapeutics. We are down to our final couple minutes here before we're going to start our question and answer portion of the day. But I just have to say, it's important here, you know, a big part of Dr. Morse's message is not about the herbs, it's about how you eat and the foods that you're putting into your body. So there's tons of PDFs on our website that are all free to download. So definitely go to check those out. We're going to look at a few in just a minute here. But essentially, when we're talking about the mineral homeostasis, right, that the body maintains, and it needs a good, healthy balance of nutrients in order to maintain that fluid balance in the body, okay? So standard American diet is high in sodium chloride. That is like the #1, you know, mineral in everything, especially table salt, okay? So if you are ingesting nothing but kind of standard American diet foods and you're getting a ton of sodium chloride in your system, your kidneys are going to not know what to do with all this excess sodium, and they can't get rid of it all. And they need to withhold some of it because they're like, I don't know what to do. We need minerals in our bodies, so I guess I'll just keep these. So the sodium ends up building up in the tissues of the body and in the blood. And there is a kind of general rule that goes by water follows salt. And so as the salt is kind of embedding itself in these tissues in the body, water also is getting absorbed and held in those tissues. And that leads to things like edema, swelling. Yeah, so you can imagine how it's very quick that with an improper diet and not a good healthy balance of nutrients, you're going to see a taxed liver, and you're going to see all kinds of kind of systemic inflammation. So watermelon I love, because watermelon's just, you can taste the mineral complex. It's got that sweetness to it, but it's also got a lot of salty to it. So, and it's also, Dr. Morse recommends fruit above water as far as staying hydrated, right? So if you're feeling thirsty and you want to grab a glass of water, consider drinking watermelon juice instead, because water is kind of void. It has some minerals in it, but depending on what type of water you're drinking, really watermelon's going to give you all the nutrients, all the hydration. It's just a win-win. And so here's some other fun PDFs available for download. You can do a lemonade fast. Lemons also have a great mineral complex. You're going to add a little cayenne and honey to that. Here we have the levels of detoxification. So beyond just kind of drinking watermelon juice when you're thirsty is doing one of our fasts. Fasting is just a really amazing way to rid yourself of toxins and promote these eliminatory systems, as well as help those supportive herbal formulas work, okay? So here are kind of the food guides. And again, I don't have too much time to get into this, but there's tons of information on our website. And also, our ultimate detox kits are going to be back in stock soon, which means that you'll be able to do a full detox program pretty soon here. But essentially, water fasting is the pinnacle of detox. And, you know, we start at the base, working our way up. And it's more than just a detox journey, it's a spiritual journey, because, you know, it becomes part of it is we're removing, like, so physical, emotional, and spiritual bodies are all being awakened by the detoxification process. And we're processing our relationship to food, and we're breaking those connections that we have to process foods, and it alters our chemistry. So it's actually the road to enlightenment, Dr. Morse likes to say, to clear your body of waste and do some fasting. There's also food combining here, recommendations, all PDFs available on our website. You want to screenshot that URL, but you can also just type food combining into our search engine and it will come up. Castor oil packs. If you're experiencing kidney discomforts, or if you just feel like you want to get some deep hydration into the kidney and bladder, castor oil pack right here on the back, right on top of the kidneys. Used to mitigate pain, break up and soften scar tissue, bring more hydration to dry tissues by increasing lymphatic flow. The castor bean contains ricinoleic acid, which is an active ingredient extracted in the oil, and the heat added to the castor oil is what really drives that oil very deep. Not only does it drive the oil deep, it helps to support, you know, joints, muscles, organs, but it also can help to draw toxins out. And if you are experiencing any discomforts in this area of the body, consider, you know, working on your kidneys and trying some hot and cold therapy and some castor packs. And there's also some great neurolymphatic points. Traditional Chinese medicine believes that the bladder meridian, or the energy channel of the bladder, runs all the way down the back along both sides of the spine. And the main energy channel on the back, this is where tensions and held in emotions can easily cause congestion in this area, leading to stiffness and neck and back pain. And these, again, are PDFs available on the site. And you would essentially want to go to each of these points and do a clockwise circular motion moving down the spine to stimulate the flow of lymph, which, of course, we know will end up stimulating the flow of kidney. Okay, deep breath. We've made it to the fun slide where you get your discount codes. So we will also be sending all this information in an email, probably about an hour or so after this webinar is complete. So you can either screenshot this page or just wait for the email. But either way, these are the formulas you get discounts on, and here are your different discount options. Okay, so now I have to kind of move a few things around because it's time for question and answers. Okay, so Jen, do you want to come off mute?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hi, Jen.
Okay, fabulous. Hello, everyone. Thank you
Hi.
for all your questions, by the way. We've got so many. Thank you.
I'm not surprised. I'm not seeing any on my end, so you'll have to read them to me.
Let's see. All right. Let's go with the first one. Could you explain the difference between Dr. Morse's kidney and bladder formulas as kind of, because some are labeled diuretic, some are labeled cleanser. Could you explain that a little bit to everyone so they understand the relationship of the herbs and how they're structured in the formulas a little bit more?
That's a great question. Yeah, so kidney bladder 1 and kidney bladder 3 are both called our cleansers. And kidney bladder 2 and kidney bladder 4 are our diuretics, okay? So if you were to kind of just keep it really general, the cleansers are going to have some element of lymphatic ingredients, so herbs that are going to help to stimulate the flow of the lymph. And then the diuretic ones, kidney bladder 2 and 4, are going to contain more diuretics. So generally we suggest, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Jen, that you pair a cleanser with a diuretic. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. And
In
so
each
the
protocol.
yeah, in the protocols, yes. So essentially the cleanser, kidney bladder 1, I'm looking at the formulas now, goldenrod herb, like for example, is in kidney bladder 1. And so we discussed how goldenrod is so great at helping to stimulate that eliminatory pathway out the skin, right? So it's a cleanser in that way. Also, kidney bladder 1 and kidney bladder 3 are the 2 that contain cordyceps. So they are also kind of those builders, adrenal builders. And let's see, so the diuretic herbs in kidney bladder 2 and 4, I would say that kidney bladder 2 is more mild diuretic. It contains chickweed, hydrangea, cleavers, and juniper berry, all great diuretic herbs. And then kidney bladder 4, like I mentioned, has the parsley leaf and root in it, which is a very strong diuretic. So that one's definitely going to make you go. But kidney bladder 4 has some cool extra ingredients in it. It's got burdock root in it, right? And we talked about how great that is for the skin channel as well. So not so much supporting the removal of toxins through the skin, but supporting the liver skin pathway as an alternative herb. So yeah, and then some other things that I wanted to mention. Let's see. I mentioned how there's some nice hydrating herbs in each. And so corn silk and marshmallow are in kidney bladder 1. Kidney bladder 2 has marshmallow as well. Really great demulcency there. Kidney bladder 3 has corn silk, and kidney bladder 4 has as far as demulcency goes, it has less of that. So it's going to be, oh, it has chickweed. Yep, there's some demulcency in chickweed. Great. Yeah, so, and Jen, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you covered that. I do have another question though.
Great, let's hear it.
All right. So one question that came through was on nettle leaf and nettle seed. Can you explain the benefit? Yeah. So can you explain the benefits or differences for both as far as the kidneys? And because the question is nettle leaf the same as stinging nettle? And if you could kind of go into that a little bit.
Yeah, nettle leaf is the same as stinging nettle. The leaf is the part of the plant that you're going to want to use. Nettle root is sometimes used for supporting prostate health, but it's the leaf that we're talking about for its diuretic action. And not only that, I just lost my train of thought. The seeds of all like plants on earth and herbal supplements, nettle has some of the highest protein content of any plant out there. So of course not compared to like super protein rich things, but just compared to other diuretic herbs, it's probably the richest in protein, and that's because the seeds are edible and they're quite nice. So definitely, I mean, I grow nettle in my backyard. Whether that's a good thing, I don't really know because it's taking over. But when it gets to the seed season, you can harvest all those seeds and just eat them in salads or eat them raw. The sting will be deactivated with nettle if you are harvesting it, wildcrafting it. It can be deactivated just by rinsing it. But if you're going to make like a nettle pesto, which we have a whole blog on that with some recipes, you're going to want to blanch it first because my husband ate some of my raw nettle pesto and he had a little bit of a histemic reaction in his throat. So definitely blanch your leaves. I could talk about nettle forever, so watch out with those nettle questions.
Let's see, I was scanning through additional questions and let's see, the most common question we're getting right now, and I may just address this one directly if that's okay with you, is getting the kidneys filtering and how long it takes, and you know how long someone should be on the kidney formulas, urinary frequency, and all of that kind of lumps in together. So for all of you that have asked those questions or something similar, hopefully this addresses it in more of a blanket way. As far as kidney frequency as start over. As far as getting how long is it going to take? That varies depending on your individual weaknesses, your lifestyle. what you've introduced as far as detoxification so far. Some people have been able to filter within a matter of days, starting detoxification, and even mild, not even all fruit. Others have, they take months. And it just seriously varies from person to person, but don't be discouraged. Just keep going on the path that is true, that is right for your body. You know your body best. Just be very aware and attentive to it. And like Colleen was mentioning with the on the previous slides, with how Dr. Morse structures with like a diuretic and a cleanser, that's also very important. You can rotate them. You don't have to stay on them all, just the same one all the time. And a high fruit diet, staying hydrated. And as far as urinary frequency, yeah, you might notice, all of us that have done the detoxification process, we've all had to run to the bathroom rather frequently for urination. But keep in mind that there are some, things to consider. Like if for males, could be a prostate issue. Dr. Morse has referenced that, causing some urinary frequency and inflammation. For females, UTIs, really sticking with, the kidneys and bladder formulas. So Parasite M also, very good. And with the lymphatic system, those are definitely some of the top ones, but never forget your foundation herbs: kidney, lymph, something for endocrine, and something for the GI tract.
Whoop, whoop.
So
that reminds me that I was going to say one more thing on this slide about the levels of detoxification.
please do.
That with the cloudy urine, which is an indicator that your kidneys are starting to filter properly, you, as Jen said, it's going to be dependent on your lifestyle and your toxic levels. But really, when you enter this green zone right here and move your way up through these detoxification levels, you should start seeing, this is just the basic detox level here. And so you should start seeing some of that sediment in your urine right away. Or at least at that level, maybe not right away.
I know for me, it was, I saw something the first day and then it kind of dissipated. I was so excited for 24 hours and then it kind of went away. So it's a fluctuation.
Maybe you weren't that toxic to start.
Yeah. So I'm sure plenty of people attending can relate. So we've gone through it too, everyone.
That's great.
Next general question, last one. I know we're running out of time. I want to leave you some closing remarks. Yes, the webinar is going to be available about 24 to 48 hours after this. And the lymphatic webinar we can provide that to you. Just email that email at the bottom of the slide, info@dmhhc.com. Some of you responded with your email addresses. If we can't get to it, please email that email address, the general email. We will get that lymphatic webinar link to you, and we're happy to do so. And if we didn't get to your question, email info as well. We are happy to still answer your questions. We are there for you.
Yeah, in fact, the follow-up email to this webinar is going to have those discount codes. It's also going to have a link to the urinary system blog and the lymphatic system blog. And if you scroll to the bottom of the lymphatic system blog, there's a link there for the webinar. It'll take you to YouTube. Yeah, thank you, Jen. You're the best.
You're very welcome. No, you are, but thank you.
It's wonderful to have Jen and Sarah here to support me and the whole Dr. Morse team to help make this happen today. And thank you, Wendy, for being here as well. It's been a pleasure spending this hour with you all. I do hope that you learned a lot and can take some nuggets away for your detoxification journey and supporting those kidneys, so we can give our kidneys just a little bit more love on our way out. And I just appreciate you all for caring enough to be here, because that's big, right? We actually care about the health and wellness of our body and our being. So I'd say you're already definitely on the right track. And with that, we'll say goodbye. And yeah, pay attention. Next, we'll be sending out some registration links for next month's webinar soon. So we hope you'll join us again. And again, have a beautiful day and happy summer.